One assumption that people seem to make about me is that I'm a very calm person. I don't get triggered. I don't get put off. Uh, I'm measured. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth. And on any given moment, I am short sentences away from losing it altogether. Something happened yesterday that really it left me in a very contemplative mood for a number of reasons. And what I want to do is I want to talk about the two things to do when you're really triggered. And I'm not talking about triggered like, oh, that triggers me. Like I'm like something happens and you go into a full-blown mental health crisis. The two things that I needed to do in that space. We're going to talk about that today. Hey, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, share, like, let people know that we're out here doing this work. We'd really appreciate it. Let's dive into today's chat and see what happens. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. So I've kind of cultivated this persona. It really is me. I just want to get on in life. I don't want to get bogged down with people. I don't want to get upset at things. I don't want people to get upset at me. I just basically want to live my life. But every once in a while, something will happen which triggers you. And first off, let's talk about triggers. I'm not a fan of talking about triggers. I'm not a fan of talking about sort of microaggressions and safe spaces, that sort of stuff. I don't like it. Sure, it works for some people, but for me, I just think at some point you've got to grow up and take some ownership of your life, and every once in a while, someone's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable. But I'm not talking about that feeling of, oh, you're triggering me. Oh, my stars. I'm talking about when something happens, something confronts you, and it causes you to go into a mental health crisis. I had this yesterday. I was in a situation where it was really innocuous. We were at a school about to present about living with mental illness. And as I said, I live with complex PTSD. I'm mere sentences or a situation or an aggravation away from losing it at any time. So, a few years ago, a guy cut me off. He got out of his car. I jumped out of my car, turned into this big fight. It came out of nothing. And it was, I would hope on a normal day, I would just kind of avoid the situation completely. But it smacked me in the face. It threw me into a mental health crisis, and I beat this guy up. Is that a humble brag? No, actually it's not, because I'm quite ashamed that I behave like that. I've walked away from far more fights than I've ever been in my life. I've been able to talk my way out of them. So anyways, yesterday, we're about to speak in this school, and this person said or did some stuff, and I don't want to get into the situation. It was something out of nothing, and it should have just been a nothing situation that we all walked away from. But somehow it triggered me. And in my mind, I felt that airbag of anxiety hit. I call it the airbag. If you've listened to the show, you know what I'm talking about. An anxiety attack, a panic attack, for me is kind of like an airbag in a car. So your fight or flight response is like an airbag. It's supposed to help you in a dangerous situation. When I was a kid, my first job was working as a milkman. I used to run around behind a truck and deliver milk to people's houses. Well, one day I jumped out of the truck. I landed on the road and a car was speeding past, going about 60k an hour. I don't know how I did it to this day. None of us do. And In this day and age, if we had caught it on camera, it would go beyond viral. I jumped down carrying two massive crates of milk bottles, about, I think it's about 12 in each hand, so about 24 milk bottles. And I jumped down onto the road. Car was coming, it was about to collect me, and somehow I jumped up backwards back into the truck. My fight or flight response reacted in a way that made me achieve something that I could not normally ever hope to do. The fear, the adrenaline, bang, I was able to do this somewhat remarkable feat. Well, that's your fight or flight. And it's not under your control. It's not something that you can help. But for me, the airbag will go off at times when it doesn't need to. So you'll be driving along and you'll change gear and the airbag will go off. Well, this is what it was like for me yesterday. I was just sitting there having a normal conversation, and for no reason, the airbag went off. I heard the screaming in my ears. I felt attacked. I felt assaulted. I felt like I was in danger, that I was going to be hurt, that I was quite literally being attacked. I wasn't, but that's how I felt. So today, I've spent the night, and it's been a fairly sleepless night. I've spent the night looking over the situation, and I've broken it down into two things that I did, which were really good. Now, if this situation had happened to me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it would have been much worse. I would have reacted a lot more poorly. I would have, probably damaged relationships. I just wouldn't have been able to deal with it. So, first off, before I get into my 2 points, I have to acknowledge, which is something that we don't do as people with mental illness, our victories. I did lose it yesterday. I did have an overwhelming airbag of emotion, but I did two things that were crucial for my safety. And let's face it, that's our first duty of care, is to ourselves, is to keep ourselves safe. The two things that I did, and I need to just also, the person that was involved with this might hear about this conversation, and I need to just let this person know that there is no blame on their part. They didn't do anything wrong. I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm just saying that the situation happened and I had a mental health response to it. So let's take away blame and finger pointing, because that's not what I'm here to do today. I'm here to talk about my response to the situation. The first thing was I removed myself. I just left. Somebody came up to me a little bit later and said, I was really impressed that you left. We don't realize sometimes how much strength it takes, because we've got all this societal pressure that, even if you don't think we do, that you're supposed to be able to be mature and handle things and deal with stuff. And you will often sit there sitting in, like, stewing in your own mental health nastiness for the sake of not losing face, of looking like you're strong, of looking like, you don't want to be embarrassed by leaving. So the first thing that I did is I left. Things were getting out of control. I was starting to lose control. I was massively triggered. My fight or flight was kicking off. So what did I do? I left. And then, and this is really crucial in this situation, I didn't start to what's the best way to say this? I gave myself a break. I quite literally said in my head, Mark, this situation could be embarrassing, could be, you could look at it a lot of ways, but I just looked at it as something that happened. And I went, it's okay. I accepted that something had happened. I accepted that there was nothing that I could do about it. I chose to give myself a break and I decided to be patient. So the first thing that I did is I left. The second thing I did is I was patient with myself. I didn't start to beat myself up. I didn't start to, you're so embarrassed. You look like a fool. You're supposed to be a man. You're supposed to be calm. Why did you react that way? I just decided to be patient. Sat down. I started breathing. I had a couple of amazing people that knew that I'd been triggered and they came out to me. I can't remember, but it felt like instantly. And I'd sat myself down and I was just saying to myself, just be patient. That was it. Just be patient. It's okay. Give yourself a break. You are in a mental health tsunami. And the thing about a tsunami is the worst thing that you can do is fight against the current. That's what kills people. Is they a tsunami is going to hurt whichever way you cut it. But the worst thing that you can do is try and fight against the flow of it. You need to get ahead of it. You need to run away. Once you're in the current, you can't fight it. And that was where I was at that moment. I could not fight against the tsunami of mental health kind of symptoms. I just had to go, this is my reality for a moment. I'm just going to breathe and I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to be patient. So the two things again, I left. I put aside my pride and I went, I am in a dangerous situation that's not good for my mental health. I'm not safe. So I'm outies. I'm going. Then I just decided to be patient, decided to ride out the wave, not fight it, recriminate with myself, not blame myself, not, stew in it. Just, I decided to be patient. Now, there are maybe consequences from what happened yesterday. I don't know. I haven't been I don't even want to engage with the people that I was with. But I know that I did what I needed to do yesterday to keep myself safe. And as I mentioned before, that is what we need to do. You are not going to be good for anything to anybody in any situation if you are not safe. You need to be safe. You need to look after yourself. You need to be selfish sometimes. My initial reaction is I spoke harshly to this person. I called them on what I thought was their bullshit. I was harsh. I don't think I was rude. I didn't abuse them. I didn't do anything like that. But my first instinct was you got to go in and apologize. But that would have just made things so much worse because I would have been walking right back into that tsunami. I'd taken myself out of it. I'd been patient with myself. And that patience extended to I'm not going to go back into that situation, even though it is probably something I should do. My natural self would say, hey, get back in there and apologize, fix the relationship. Well, that was not the time to do it. And going back into that situation was going to make it so much worse. Now, there's a lot of things that you need to do. But in this situation, me doing the two things that I did, getting out of there, then just being patient with myself was the safest and best thing to do. And it's probably the only reason I can do this podcast today, because 2-3 years ago, a situation like this would have knocked me around for at least a month. I wouldn't have been able to do this podcast for a month because I would have been so overwhelmed by the situation. Mental illness is not easy. And we don't make it any easier on ourselves if we expect more than we can give, if we expect more from ourselves than we are able to do. So the next time you get triggered like I did yesterday, get out of there. Just leave. And then be patient with yourself. Let the tsunami of emotion, let the fight or flight run its course, and then start to deal with the situation if you need to. This turned out, I thought this was going to be like a 3-minute podcast. I'm actually really surprised at how long this has gone for. Hey, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, tell your friends. If you want to come on as a guest, let me know. Have a great week. I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.